This episode is brought to you by Lines of Characters. Check out your favorite comic book, movie, and anime characters come to life where you get to be the villain or the hero with these characters. Check out locdesigns.com. Also, you can follow them on Instagram at Lines of Characters. And now, the Fresh Delivery Show.
We are live, season three. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fresh Delivery Show. I am the Shaolin Fantastic. We're a show about anything and everything and all that you need to know about pop culture, current events, relationships, social justice, mental, physical, emotional health, travel, food reviews, music, entertainment, and it features candid conversation with co-hosts and audience. If this is your first time checking us out, you can download us on the Anchor app, but you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And also you can find us on our new YouTube channel. So I'm going to bring in my other guests. We got the Grand Booba in the house. What's up, Grand Booba?
What up? What do you do, baby?
It's all about the LA scene right now. How you doing, man?
Good, man. What's good with you?
Hey, same old. You know, can't call it, man. It is what it is with the nature of what's going on. And, you know, we have a really hot topic going on tonight. So, you know,
Yes,
hopefully we
sir.
get some really good conversations out of this. So,
Yeah, man.
did you actually no, you will just go in right into it. So my first two guests examine social issues or current events through an apologetical, I'm saying this so wrong, black lens. The podcast that keeps on talking blackness. Jay and Warren of the Black Light Podcast. I got the stumbles right now. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
I'm good. So glad that you guys got to be part of this little project that we're doing, and hopefully, you know, we can see some more other things. So
We're excited.
yeah, cool guys. All right, so we also have two ladies, but really we got one half. Ladies sharing their single and ready to mingle misadventures. Single girls don't want to be us. Married girls are glad they ain't us. Half of the 52 Days podcast. We welcome Melania. What's up, girl? How you doing?
Good, how are you? It's also cool to just call me Monique, by the way.
Monique. All right,
Yeah.
so we'll go with like the government name. Is that the government name?
Melania is the government name.
Ah, okay. All right, so I also got on our next guest. I've known him for a long time since childhood. He's part of an amusing intellectual group of rabid football fans that discuss all things football. From a football world discussion group, we got John Turner. What's up, John?
I'm asking the questions here. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It was raining crazy in Maryland today. It was like typhoon weather out there, man. Made me feel like I was in Asia. I can say that because I am Asian.
Great indeed.
Yeah. And our last guest, we have a returning guest from the Fresh Delivery Show that is very authentic and great, straight to the point. We have Jamie. What's up, Jamie? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What up,
Hi.
Jamie?
Everyone just waved.
So, you know, and without being so formal and just being very honest about this, you know, this is going to be a discussion. It's you know, I don't want to keep it too much like a game show or a talk show. It's just real people having a discussion, people of different ethnic backgrounds. And I know you guys individually, and I have a high respect for you and the comments and the discussions I have with you and you have with other people. It's very respected, and this is a discussion I feel like that we need to have. So the conversation steered to the much needed topic of Zoe Saldana's portrayal of Nina Simone in 2016 biopic called Nina, which was notoriously championed against by Simone's fans and family members. It was one of the first times where the social media age and issues regarding Black portrayals in Hollywood collided, providing important discussion around the erasure of dark skin. So this whole thing, like the movie being very transparent, is an older movie, right? It came out in 2016, and most recently, Zoe Saldana and I believe it was the director was interviewed and were kind of questioned by the minority and the Black community about her, you know, her portrayal in playing the movie, and felt that, you know, the movie could have done a little bit better versus painting her Black to make her a darker skinned person, to put prosthetics on her to portray Nina Simone. And publicly, Zoe Saldana apologized for better, for sake of words, saying that she should have prepared a little bit more for it and probably, you know, either not taking the role due to the portrayal not being as accurate as it should be. So this conversation started in a Facebook group chat, and it expanded very wide. And I like to actually start off with Jay and the Black Light podcast. So one of the questions that came up with the regards of certain comments by individuals, and this one person does not represent a specific race or ethnic or some type of diverse group. This person is representing themselves, but it's a comment that some of us may have heard before, and they said, well, because Zoe Saldana, her ethnic background is Puerto Rican and Dominican, right? Some people were saying that Dominicans are not Black, and that's why she should not play the role. What's your take on that?
Well, I definitely can't speak on Zoe's Blackness as it pertains to being Afro-Latina. I mean, that's definitely not my role to do that. My initial stance when I heard this, and I think this is just a really interesting topic, and especially with the climate of what's going on these days, is we have people's Blackness is brought into question for just about anything, and so with Saldana and playing this role, I mean, if you can go back and look at interviews leading up to it, she's really on the defensive because of the backlash. And I think one of the things that we kind of miss is that based on the backlash that she was receiving, it's an attack on her and her ethnicity and maybe that concept of maybe not being Black enough for the role. But it's really not about that. It's about her actually honoring the role and honoring Nina Simone, and somebody who is a Black person, and that was a big part of her character. And so in her apology now, I think it's her kind of realizing that it really wasn't her having to defend herself being Black or her Blackness, because I haven't heard her once decline or deny being Black. It's that just her identifying as a Black person just looks a little bit different than maybe somebody else, and we're entitled to that.
So at any point during this conversation, you guys can jump in and when someone's done, you can kind of speak your opinion. So just kind of reading the post. So we have someone of Dominican back. We actually have two people of Dominican background. Ladies first. Would you like to go first and your take on certain comments that come off like that? Is Black?
I actually do think Zoe Saldana at one point said she wasn't Black. And this was like way back in the day. Like, if you really know Zoe's work, when she was doing Center Stage, she really came out and was like, oh, I'm Dominican, I'm not Black, and I'm Puerto Rican, I'm not Black. And there's just a lot of things that she has said in the past claiming to not be Black. I think right now in the time that we're in, I'll say this, I'm a 100% Dominican American, first generationer. So both my parents are from the DR. Whether or not we were Black was never really talked about in the household growing up. It just wasn't really a part of the conversation. My dad's darker than me. My mom's lighter than me. She's tan or yellow, whatever you want to call it. And so even the term Afro-Latino was never really used in our house. I mean, I was called negra, but that wasn't a big thing for us growing up. And in fact, my dad made a big deal about being proud of our Dominicanness because he can walk into a restaurant, like an El Salvadorian restaurant, I'm just throwing out that, and no one speaks to him in Spanish, but we'll talk to everybody else in Spanish because they assume he's not a Spanish speaker or from a Spanish-speaking country or Spanish or Latino, however you want to refer to it. So that was how we were raised, that we need to be proud of our heritage and where we come from. And it wasn't really about not being Black. It was really about remembering that we're also Latinos. So, but Zoe has said she's not Black, just because you said that towards the end.
Okay.
But
I do think it's funny that she claims to not be Black, but she's always playing a Black role.
she is.
And jumping the broom, she played a Black woman.
Guess who? She played a Black woman.
Guess who? Played a Black woman. Bernie Mac was her dad.
Yep.
So just throwing this out there, just being very, not taking a side, just kind of throwing out a question that was said before. So because of that, does someone have to be of that ethnicity to play a role in a movie in order to portray the best? I see you laughing, Warren. You know where I'm going at with this. You know what I mean? Like, a good example of that was brought up in the group chat, and I've heard this before, was Al Pacino. He's Italian, but he played Scarface, and he nailed the role. So was it because she was getting backlash because the movie wasn't that great? I can't speak for it because I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if y'all seen it. I mean,
I've never seen it.
You never seen it?
I haven't seen it. I didn't even realize it got released because there was so much backlash.
I didn't know.
I thought it was on Netflix.
I thought it was
Something like under wraps, it seems like.
Yeah, I thought it was on Netflix, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
I thought it was pushed back because of the whole controversy.
Listen, obviously, just being a critic, it seems like it was a pretty bad movie because we don't even know. We're not even sure if it's on Netflix or not. And to get that backlash, based off her color, do you feel like that's a fair thing to do in Hollywood? And like, how authentic do you have to have the role? Like, Warren, what's your take on that? Because you have a background in film. Let's hear it, brother.
Yeah. So I work in film in stunts, and in stunts we have a very similar issue with paint downs for stunt doubles and not using stunt doubles that are the same ethnicity as the person being cast as the actor or actress for the role. But as it pertains to this situation, I think there's a lot to be said for the roles that we decide to take and whether or not we have leverage to take those roles, whether or not we have options, whether or not there are other people in the industry that could take the roles. I think a lot of the issue that we see with something like the Zoe Saldana situation is there were many perfectly suitable, very dark-skinned Black actresses to take the role to correctly portray the life of someone that was, her life was about being marginalized as a dark-skinned Black woman that had a wide nose and very dark complected features. Without using someone to play that role that shared in that same understanding and could portray that on the screen correctly, I think they did a disservice to the movie. I just don't think she was the correct person to use for the role for the movie's sake. Whether or not she should have taken the role, I don't think she should have taken the role because there are other roles that she could play very easily, and she's done that throughout her career. She's done a lot of different movies and had a lot of chances, and there are less roles for very dark complected Black actresses. So this would be a perfect moment for her to step aside and say, actually, one of these women is a perfect candidate for the role. She should play Nina Simone and do it to its truest. I don't think it matters necessarily when we're talking about Italians versus or something like the Al Pacino situation, because there is a fluency to being white a lot of the time when you're being cast, where you can be cast as pretty much anything in terms of the white backgrounds. So it doesn't matter as long as you can portray the role. But I think it suddenly matters when we're talking about a marginalized human. We're playing a real person. We're talking about a marginalized human. We're talking about a marginalized group of people. And then we're using somebody outside of that marginalized group of people to play the role. It just gets a little icky.
I actually agree with you. But also at the same time, we as listeners out there and fans of, I'm a fan of Zoe Saldana, and just kind of looking at the big picture of things, like, what if there was no one else in that specific role that could fulfill that? And at the time she was thinking, maybe I can nail this role. Maybe let me use my artistic creativity as possible. I mean, I see, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I'm trying to play both sides of it. You know what I mean? But do you feel that, okay, I think if she had actually gotten the blessings from the family, because like you said, she is depicting a real person, so it's not like she's playing. I know we made a comment in the chat about her being Gamora, but Nina Simone is a real person, and I feel like if she had gotten the blessing from the family, I think a lot of that would have been eliminated. Like how even if the movie was really bad, So I do feel like as a person working in that field, there are consequences of what you do and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Can we have a real conversation though? Like Zoe Saldana, can she even sing? Was she even the right person? Taking her color or her complexion out of it, was she the right person?
I don't think so.
No, you're right.
Like, was she and I love Zoe Saldana. Again, there's not a lot of Black Latinas we're seeing on TV, especially when I was younger. You're seeing them more and more now, but they're also So I love Zoe. I support her 100%. But was she actually the right casting for Nina Simone? And I don't think she was. Taking complexion out of it 100%.
So with that argument, so then would you say that, let's just say they went out and looked for 25 people, right? And Zoe was one of them. In reality of it, because she has a household name, it probably, using her name is going to bring in revenue and stuff like that.
And that's the issue with the movie industry.
So it had to do with money and stuff like that.
Movies start all the time and they fail all the time, and we never hear about them. This movie should have gotten into the early stages of being thought about and being cast, and when they couldn't find anybody that actually fit the role and could do it justice, they should have just scrapped it and put it on the shelf and done it later, and at a time when they could find an actress that would actually fulfill the role. If Nina Simone's family wasn't behind the movie and her fans weren't behind the movie, then why was this movie being produced anyway?
Yeah.
We got a comment from Tati. She says, I was turned off because she was actually painted black.
And I do think that's a big issue. I think if they put prosthetics on her nose, like, people probably wouldn't have even noticed because no one's really paying attention to someone's nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the fact that she was painted, and she should have said something too, like, should we be painting me? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But you keep saying she's a household name, but I don't know that Zoe Saldana is really a household name. She's been
She is.
Yeah.
She was in Star Trek. Star Trek.
But when Nina was being casted, that was just when was Star Trek and Guardians of the Galaxy was just starting to get big. So when she got casted for Nina Simone, I can argue that she was not a household name at that point.
She's a B-rated actress.
No,
she's definitely she's in these lower budgeted black movies is what she started in, and everyone's favorite.
Hey, she was in Guess Who with Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher.
Okay, yes.
That was her big break.
But you have Jump in the Room.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think Guess Who was that big of a movie. I mean, people love Bernie Mac back in the day.
Yeah. Those are, I wouldn't say they're like Oscar A-listers, but they're names that people recognize, people that have been in big films, and to be able to see that movie in a theater versus Nina, I didn't even know about it until what's been going on the last year, and people start bringing that up.
And that's why I argue, can you say she was Avatar. Can you say that she was a household name if this movie didn't really pop?
I mean, if she
because
was
if people really support her, then this movie would have. No one here even knew it was released.
Well, that just shows poor marketing.
Poor marketing.
I knew it was in production because Nina.
But
what's your take, John, on it? You felt at the time you posted a comment that you felt that she should have not apologized for it.
I'd like to officially say that I'm half Dominican, so my opinion only half counts. Let's do one thing straight, guys. If you take a snapshot of my face, just this much of it, I look just like my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother. Now, the tint might change up the line, but if you take that snapshot and you go on down my line to the 4 kids I've created, they look just like their daddy. All effing 4 of them. And anybody that's ever met any of my children will say, oh my God, you guys look just like your father. And everybody that's ever encountered me and my mother says, are you guys brother and sister, or what's the deal? Okay, so Dominicans can be like Alex Rodriguez or Michelle Rodriguez or Sammy Sosa or Big Papi. All right, we're all across the board, okay? We encompass a lot of history on that island. There's a lot of that island. So I think the question isn't whether or not she was dark enough to play the role, and I don't think it's are Dominicans black. I don't think the question is either of those things. And some of you guys have alluded to, did she get the family's blessing, or was she the right fit, or did they just go with the hot name at the time? Maybe it's a little bit of all of the above, right? And maybe the director, who is a white Jewish guy, by the way, because I did a little bit of research, the executive
I thought it was a woman.
The executive producer, excuse me. I Googled it and I IMDb'd it. He's a mid 60s. I don't know if Jewish people are considered white anymore or not. I don't know. You tell me. It's a different world we're living in from 5 minutes ago. So, I mean, his decision for her to tint it up a bit. I mean, we need to get a little bit darker up in here because I got these luminescent types of bulbs shining over you, and I need this type of tint glistening off your skin. Okay, so this is what needs to happen. We need to break out the shoe polish and get this done. Okay, so who's to blame here? I don't know. I love Zoe, not because she's Dominican, not because she's hot AF, but because she's Zoe. And every time I've ever seen her on my little screen or a big screen, I just want to rub one out. You know what I mean? I just want to call to the gods above and say, thank you, Lord, for putting her in front of something in front of me for me to see. You know what I mean? And I enjoy every moment I get to see of her. And I hold my complaints until the very end, and they are very far and few between. So for those out there that got big complaints, I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't seen the film. But they went through the casting process of a lot of people, and they probably brought in more than just her for this role, and they decided to go with her, and then they decided to tint her dark. So there was a lot of people involved with this decision. So I mean, at what point does everybody just chillax and understand that it was a conscious decision and just move on with your life?
I agree with John in that she shouldn't have apologized. And she wasn't apologizing in the beginning. In the beginning, she was like, I want this role. I think I can play it. And she did a lot of interviews and conversations about it. So I don't think that she should have apologized now. I think we're into this cancel culture and making everyone feel bad. And I agree with John. We need to get past that. We need to stop that. Like, it's just too much. But going back to whether or not it was a household name, this movie, she was casted in 2012. Avatar was probably her most popular movie to date, and all of us forgot about Avatar until someone randomly until Totsi said in the comments that she was in Avatar. I will say she wasn't a household name, but ultimately I do agree with John. Like, we kind of got to get past it. And again, I think if they didn't paint her skin, this wouldn't even be a conversation. It's that they painted her.
You're right, but in the same age, everything's about colorism. Everything's about color. And people can't get past that either. Playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah. But then can we say that then white Latinos should stop being casted in white parts? White people should stop being casted in Spanish part? Like, are we going to stop all of that and possibly ruin the quality of the film because we just want to get someone that matches the description?
It goes into who's writing the films and what kind of shows we're trying to produce. If we're trying to produce a show to be realistic, and then the people that are writing the thing have nobody in mind to play the roles that they're writing, are we really telling the story well? Like, can we really tell a story well that's supposed to be realistic when we don't have the people that can draw from experience or really display it on the screen correctly?
You guys were somebody early in the show mentioned Al Pacino playing Tony Montana. Okay, this is like a role that we can barely imagine anybody else playing other than Al Pacino at this point in our lives. We've seen it over and over again. We've seen the memes. We've seen the jiffies. That's his character. He owns it, right? Well, right now I'm watching a really good show called Peaky Blinders. All right. I think it's a really good show. And I'm on like season 3 or 4. And Adrian Brody is the head of the Italian gangster.
Don't do any spoilers. That's on my watch list.
I'm just telling you, Adrian Brody.
I know, please don't.
Adrian Brody is representing the Italians in this show. And I looked him up because I knew I was coming on this show, and I knew that we talked about other actors playing roles that didn't match up geographically or whatever. I looked up Adrian Brody. He's from Queens, New York. His mother was Hungarian. His father, she ain't got nothing to do with being Italian. Okay, yet on this show, which is pretty darn good, and he nails this role, he plays an Italian black hand mafia guy. So I mean, is that right for him to take that role? Is it right for him to hire him to do that role? Is it okay because he's really, really white and he's got a big schnoz? You guys tell me. I mean, it's 2020. Anything seems to go this year. You guys let me know if Adrian Brody is even allowed to be in the same room as Tom Hardy in Home Slice from Batman. I mean, I don't know. You know,
I want to jump back real quick because I think that also goes back into what Warren was saying about there being the concept of there being a fluency. And one of the examples that I think of is The Wire, right? So you have, hopefully everybody's familiar with The Wire. I don't know who hasn't seen The Wire, but so the actor that plays McNulty is actually British. Mayor Carcetti is actually Irish, but you would never know by watching it. I mean, honestly, when I first saw The Wire, I didn't know that Idris Elba was British. You know what I mean? So I mean, those are the things that I think about.
What? You really?
But that's a big conversation right now too. Like people saying that British people can't play American. Like the dude from Get Out is also British, and there was this big argument about him playing that character because he hasn't had the same experience. And I'm like,
Christian Bale.
Know what people's experiences are based on where they're from. People have the same experiences no matter where they live, especially based on their backgrounds. Like country doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But that is a big fight that's come up, and that's why I think we need to be careful about these conversations, because then we end up getting into a place where we can't have anyone play anything because someone's going to be offended.
I mean, people are going to be offended no matter what. That's the society that we live in.
I mean, when it came down to it, when she apologized, I think she did it for the sake of her character in general. You know, that's one thing foremost. A lot of people need to understand. She apologized for her character of who she is, and then obviously she wanted to make sure that she apologized to the Black culture.
Yeah, didn't want to get blacklisted either.
Yeah.
Like
I think she did it so she could continue getting casted, Jamie. I don't think she
did it to protect. That's like one of the foremost. That's a career buster right there.
Yeah, the best way to protect your brand is to kiss someone's ass. Period.
I think although that is a possibility, I do also think that it is possible that within this 4-year period of her playing that role, that she could develop some sort of consciousness of saying, hey, maybe it really wasn't about this. Maybe I was being ambitious in my role, and I'm just, I'm not in her brain, so I don't know. But it could possibly be like, you know what? I've actually had a chance over this 4 years to talk to people about this. And yeah, you know what? Yeah, I am sorry. I do have some regrets about playing this role. I mean, I had a chance to watch the entire interview. Well, not the entire interview, but the part where she apologized. And it really does. I mean, whether you believe it's sincere or not, but it really does seem like she was sorry about the way that she represented the role and represented Nina Simone, not necessarily her having to apologize for her being Dominican or being Afro-Latina or anything like that. So that's how it came off to me. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see it, but so.
I also don't think she would do it again, but this is today Zoe Saldana, right? And I can't speak to Zoe Saldana. I really can't speak to Zoe Saldana's frame of reference at all anyway, but I'm going to try. Zoe Saldana in 2016 might have been or 2012 when she was taking the role might have been a totally different Zoe Saldana in terms of her prospects, her opportunities to play roles at all anyway. We might be seeing a very different Zoe Saldana today because of her exposure, because of the fact that she's a household name now. And she's looking back going like, man, I wish I hadn't done that because I wouldn't do that now. That doesn't mean that 2012 Zoe Saldana wouldn't do that again in 2020, or 2012 Zoe Saldana wouldn't do that again in 2020.
Yeah.
It's a good question of like whether or not you take roles when you feel marginalized, whether or not you take the roles that come in front of you. And I guess what I'm asking is that we
said that she gets painted in all of her movies.
Yeah, Tati has me dying in the comments, by the way.
Has anybody ever bothered to sit back and realize that every time that she's been painted as an actress, the movie has blown up one way or another? I mean, she was painted blue in Avatar. She's painted green in Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers. And now she's painted darker black, extra black, crispy or whatever.
So it sounds to me like she enjoys doing that.
So,
hey,
everyone has their thing.
I mean, she's at the strip club like this. Okay? because of all the paint jobs she's had. So I don't know why we're getting bugged out while she's painting her way to the bank.
All right. This one page not fail.
And I just by the way, guys, you mentioned Mayor Carcetti on The Wire. He's Irish, okay?
Right.
Plays an Italian wannabe governor for the city of Baltimore in The Wire. Fast forward to Blinders, he's English again. So I mean, like, what exactly is this guy trying to be? Oh, by the way, I watched an interview with Gary Oldman a long time ago that said he played so many American roles in a row that he had to take an English speaking class to relearn how to speak the King's English because he had
That's funny.
so many American English roles in a row. And right after Batman, he had to take that role. Or take that class to relearn how to speak his own native language of the King's English, mate.
Now you just threw Australian in there too.
How we felt about Shia LaBeouf and Tax Collector.
I still haven't watched that. Has it come out yet? It does look like it will be a good movie.
It looks like it's going to be good. And then we have another comment too that's on Facebook saying, yes, Black people should play Black people, white people should play white people, disabled people should play disabled people, and gay people should play gay people. I don't necessarily agree with that.
But with that being said, there was a comment that I said earlier in reference to that, you know, kind of as a whole, does that take away from an artist, you know, and their craft and what they do if you're getting to, you know, you're singled out by, you know, your race and that's it, and that's the only roles you can do, then you get stuck like that, right?
Well, what does race say about you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What does race have to do with like what roles you can play necessarily, right? If we're pigeonholing what Black people can be in movies, then sure, you're stuck as being the crackhead in all of the shows that you're in, or the driver. But if we actually widen who's writing the roles and who's creating the movies, then a Black person playing a Black person can be any role that we can think of.
Yeah, or a Black Latina, because I think that's still a big thing. The reason why Zoe Saldana is taking all of those roles as a Black person is because there's not a lot of roles that are specific to Black Latinos. If they really are Latinos, and then when a Black Latino, Laz Alonso did an interview on this, someone sent me a video in the comment about this. Black Latinos are constantly like, well, you're not actually Latino, so we're going to go for the Salma Hayeks. And I can't think of, Antonio Banderas and those types of people because they look Latino.
Right.
Antonio Banderas he played Iranian in, what's that movie? 13 Warriors.
Yeah, so, and I think that's where I'm getting at. Like, people who are of a lighter complexion or white can get away with playing any role. And then someone who's Black, like, well, why are you playing a role that's not Black? And I think that we
can even go to the effect of what Renee was asking about. What about disabled people playing disabled people? Okay. What about radio?
Cuba Gooding Jr.
There's a question.
Or what's Eating Gilbert Grape? Leonardo DiCaprio. A lot of people actually thought that he had that he was mentally disabled after that role. That's the role he should have got the Grammy on.
Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman.
Yep.
We got Forrest Gump.
Not the Grammy, the Oscar.
We have that movie with oh my gosh, I can't think of her name right now, from Miss Congeniality.
Talking about Sandra Bullock?
Yeah. But I'm saying that one movie that hate is such a strong word. But I'm just saying that one movie where I can't even think what it's called. I'm like terrible.
I have a question, guys.
Not her specifically, but the guy that played Mike.
Can you name an actor or an actress that has not been typecasted?
Denzel Washington.
What?
He hasn't been,
if that's the biggest
like that.
He's like the biggest character actor ever.
Yeah, but he plays different characters. Like, he doesn't stick to like one type of character.
I feel like it's still Denzel, kind of like Will Smith. Like, it's like Detective Mike Lowry in every series now.
Yeah. Training Day.
Training
is Denzel Washington. What's the
I mean,
Don't you think with that list? Okay, so everybody agrees Denzel, right, or Morgan Freeman.
You know, I would say hasn't really been typecasted. Well, he does because he picks his movie as Jim Carrey. Because when he plays a serious movie, he does a really good job. He's not a character actor. He chooses to play characters.
I agree with that.
But okay, I'll agree to disagree. But what I guess my point was is that don't you think that there's like a pile of actors and actresses that these producers and directors kind of look at and say, okay, we've got this role, and then we've got this pile of actors and actresses that we can probably choose from. Which one do you want? I think that's probably kind of how it works in Hollywood. I don't know. I'm not in the industry. My man that in the picture right above me, I can't remember your name. You're gonna have to remind me. But you're
Warren.
in the industry. My uncle has been a grip in the industry for a very long time and has worked in Vegas for a very long time as well. And he says that there's kind of like there's a little bit of a unionization favoritism going on, and there's a go-to pick list. Am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, of course. I mean,
it's called a PPO. It's insurance. PPO. That's what it. No, it's not HMO. I'm sorry, HMO. It's in network. You keep it in network,
right? I mean, there's a lot of times you want to work with people you've worked with before because it's worked out and you enjoyed your working relationship. Or there's people that you choose because literally when you were creating the concept for this role, you're like, you know who would be really good for this? So and so. And so you call them first and then they go, yeah, sure. And that's how it sort of takes off, as long as they're not doing another project at the time, right? That happens a lot.
And there's also the chemistry.
To Warren's point, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to Warren's point, there are a lot of directors like that. Like, for instance, Christopher Nolan will always call Christian Bale to do his movies, or he would call like other actors I can't even think of that they will always be in his movie.
Yeah,
so
Tarantino does the same thing.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who does all the gangster movies?
Scorsese.
Leo.
Scorsese.
De Niro.
It's Leo. It's Robert
Pacino.
De Niro. Pacino. So they all have their guys.
Yep. But he's kind of going with like
favoritism things.
Huh? It's rare you get someone like Steven Spielberg that he just did West Side Story last year. It should come out this December. It's rare you get someone like them or him that puts out like a national casting call and says, give me your best. And he picked from like 10,000 women to find Maria for that movie.
Yeah. I think Reese Witherspoon is trying to do the same thing, but she keeps casting herself. She keeps saying, I'm the best one out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what age they are, I'm still the best.
Edward Norton does the same thing too.
So I love all the 80s bad action movies, right? And Sylvester Stallone, who went to Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland, you're welcome. He
also went to my elementary school.
He has hand selected his cast for those movies, right? And he has typecasted all the actors for these corny, today's age version of 80s action movies known as the what are they called? The Expendables. That's his series, right?
Yeah. So that's just alone.
So with that being said, we see
Tom Cruise is another one.
Fast and the Furious kind of typecasting their people. We see these other series kind of typecasting their people. Do we see that this movie, Nina, is like the one time where maybe they tried to fit a triangle peg in a round slot? You know what I mean? Or did they just kind of accidentally get this one wrong? Or is this a case of somebody saying, I'm familiar with this actress, I want to go with her, I think she'd do a great job, let's go with Zoe? You know what I mean? Like, what exactly happened here?
This is the perfect example of why I don't necessarily like focusing on Zoe in the conversation, is because this is more of a general problem with the industry and a general problem with how we're set up for entertainment. We have a situation where we're going with certain actors or actresses for roles that somebody else would probably be better at playing because we're so used to going with certain people. And the way that our society has been racialized and our focus on colorism has made it so that our darker skinned Black friends and our Afro-Latinas do not get roles in general. So we're having this conversation about Zoe when we should
Zoe's
be
a
talking about
catalyst.
exactly. It's I hate to bring this up, but it's very much like people saying like, why George? I'm like, it's not George. It's the, I don't know how many years of police killing black people that gets us to that point, right?
Yeah.
It's just a catalyst situation for us to talk about colorism in entertainment in general. Didn't mean to shut the conversation
Yeah.
No.
I did just check. Cynthia Moore was the director, so I did try to look to see if she worked with Zoe on anything else. She actually doesn't have a lot on her belt. So I to go to John's question, I don't know why Zoe got picked for this. She wasn't a household name at the time. We can argue that she is now. Because I think household names are like Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, George Clooney, Denzel Washington,
Will Smith.
Could have been a money issue.
Will Smith. Yeah, it could have been money. Apparently, Mary J. Blige was on in 2003 when they first started looking at this film. Mary J. Blige was picked to star in it. So there's also that question of how did that change? And Mary J. Blige is
but
she's great. She's a decent actor, but she's a great singer. Zoe Saldana is a decent actress and a mediocre singer. So it's like, and again, I love Zoe, but it was more. I love Zoe. I think she's gorgeous. I think she does great in the movie she plays. I think she did great in Colombiana. I think she does great in Avatar. She does great in what's that? Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nora, when you see her action figure, that's Zoe Saldana. That's green.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think she's a bad actress, and I think she's incredibly attractive. I just don't think
that she's up there on the scale that she's going to be like a huge moneymaker. And as far as pay is concerned, she hasn't really played much.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the question, John. How was she chosen?
Well, before John answers that, let me ask you guys this question real quick. Let's take Zoe. Let's go back 2016, right? We have the control of the cast, right? We're the casting directors. We don't have to pick Zoe. And you got a certain amount of budget. You can pick whoever you want. Who are you picking to pick?
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis, yep.
She was nobody back then.
In 2016? Yes, she was.
She was.
Yeah. That's How to Get Away with Murder was super popular and The Help.
When did Fences come out?
But I feel like
Viola came out like 2 years ago.
2 years, 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2018.
Viola would have been too old for the role, so maybe think about the singers, think about Fantasia or
Jennifer Hudson.
She would have fit the role.
Exactly, yes.
She's horrible, dude. I'm sorry.
Who is horrible?
Fantasia. She should have not won American Idol. Sorry.
Did she win?
I mean,
yeah, she won.
It's a popularity contest.
She beat out Kelly Clarkson that year.
No, Kelly Clarkson won. What are you talking about?
Think of this blasphemous
Oh man.
Okay, I just if you go to the IMDb page for the movie, the first thing on the trivia section that pops up, and this is hilarious, 42 out of 42 people found this interesting. That's how IMDb works, right? It's like it got 42 out of 42 likes. According to the daughter of Lisa Simone Kelly, Nina had often hoped that Whoopi Goldberg would one day portray her on film. Get the fuck out of here. Whoopi Goldberg
old at that point
sucks. Okay, she's not an actress. She's like an entertaining person.
I mean, The Color Purple wasn't a bad film.
No, it was Karina.
Answer is no. No. You get nothing.
I don't think that would have been a good casting either.
Sister Act 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, those were that trumps the god.
Alexandra Coleman said Denai Guerra. I think that would have been good. And actually, now that she's saying that,
no, I mean that would have been amazing.
But I don't know that she could sing.
I wouldn't have known her name.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times you got people who can just sing anyway? I mean, you had what's her name, Tracy Ellis Ross, who just played in that movie that just went straight to the.
She does sing live though, and it is awful.
But that's the thing. So I mean, you could tighten all that up. I mean, it's just a matter of just find somebody who can sing and just take them off. Look at Milli Vanilli, shoot. You know,
there you go.
Yeah,
all the old school people.
I mean, they screw up.
Zac Efron in High School Musical.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Tati said Lupita Nyong'o.
That's actually a good one too.
That's the one that keeps coming up as Lupita. That's who should have been casted.
I love her. She's a really great actress.
She is.
Guys, that comment alone by that family member should let you know that they had no idea who the right pick should be to play that role. If Whoopi Goldberg was who the actual person that was the role that was portrayed would have selected, because Lord only knows Hollywood ain't picking Whoopi Goldberg for that role. Okay, no. 10 out of 10 times. I don't care if it's David Spielberg or David Geffen. Okay, happening. Whoopi Goldberg ain't happening, guys. Sorry, not sorry. Next customer. Thank you. Have a good day.
To Alexandra's comment, I think the lady who played V would have been too old for the role as well.
Yeah.
I think
now we're talking about ages.
I'm telling y'all, Viola Davis.
We're talking about ages for the role because we're doing a biopic for Nina Simone, and she didn't start off as an older woman.
Yeah, but that whole movie that they just put out on Netflix that was 3 hours too long, the gangster movie. What was it called? It's with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
The Irishman.
Yes. Was it The Irishman? Yeah. The bad guy from Home Alone. Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Yeah. Joe Pesci. They're all in it. It's a 3-hour movie. And instead of just casting younger people to play them throughout their lives, they did the whole digital thing. And it was awful.
They need money. They broke.
Save that money. Yeah.
I feel like digital, Warren, doing that digital be more expensive than just casting a younger actor?
Usually.
Okay,
that much digital work is really expensive.
It's why Spike Lee didn't do it in his new Netflix movie.
Yeah. But you still get an authentic person.
Really good movie, by the way.
Here's a show that I really liked, guys, and I absolutely loved Marco Polo. Who watched Marco Polo, and how do you feel about some of the characters that were picked to play those roles? Because that was the Mongolian.
So good.
Is it good?
It's so good.
On my watch list.
Right, it was so good.
Yeah.
But even though the show was called Marco Polo, I feel they only named it that to kind of make you focus on Marco Polo himself. He was not the main character in that show. The main character were the Asian and the Arabic characters portrayed in that historical show that were more important to the storyline, in my opinion. How do you feel about that show? I think that is honestly, in my opinion, a bigger heartbreaking story than Nina, which I had never heard about until
we wouldn't have heard about it until the controversy.
That's the issue with this.
I want to second back to what Warren said, where really we should stop writing roles specific to a race, unless the story is about that, and just say the best person should be casted in this role. People talk a lot about Friends now and how Friends was an all-white cast and they didn't have a main black character until like season 9/10. I love Friends. I've watched every episode numerous times.
Black character in that show. Same. I'm confused.
Ross and Joey both dated her, and she was a scientist.
Oh, her, yes. I did binge, but I was she was so insignificant to me.
She doesn't come in until the very last season. It was because they got all these calls for, hey, there's no black people. But in reality, that was true to them. Back then, it would have either you had a token black person in the cast.
You had shows like Girlfriends, Living Single. There were shows that were all black cast.
Yeah.
Martin.
But that's because they didn't have black people in white shows. So we kind of need to get past that where we're doing it now because the stories need to be told. They're not being told and people want to be represented. But can we get to a cast where it doesn't really matter what color you are? Anthony Anderson had a good show and it only lasted one season called Dads or something like that. And it was just 3 best friends. There was it was a funny show and I was really upset it got canceled. It was like a sitcom. And it was a black guy and 2 white guys. But in that show, it came off really authentic. It didn't seem like Anthony Anderson was a token black guy on the show. And that's where we need to start getting to.
Yeah, you know what sucks too? Shows like Pretty Little Liars, you have Troyan Osario, who was casted as a white actress, and she's black.
Yeah, and she speaks a lot about it. She talks a lot about that fact that she's black.
I'm not gonna lie, half these shows I don't even know.
I mean, these are more recent shows that we're speaking of now, like the past 10 years type of shows. And a lot of them are like teen dramas or like younger generation, like.
Well, Riverdale has they have like a main Asian, a main Spanish girl. The main 3 characters are white, and then they have some color. But the two main black characters on that show came out and said that they're still background characters, even though they're in like every episode.
What about like shows like that with diverse casts?
What shows?
Good Trouble is a good one that has a very diverse cast.
Yeah, Good Trouble does have a diverse cast. All American does have a diverse cast.
I love that show.
But it is
season 3.
All American is kind of like put out as a black show though, but it does have a diverse cast.
Yeah.
What other shows? New Amsterdam, The Good Doctor.
Good Doctor was great in this respect, especially because of the people they had in high positions and looked up to, esteemed, smart
all people of color.
All people of color or women of color. It was fantastic.
What is that show on?
I don't remember.
NBC, I think.
NBC.
Chicago Med did a good storyline about one of the main characters having a black daughter, even though he's white, and her mom being the love of his life, but it not working because his mom was racist. And like they did a whole storyline on that, and I thought that was because the daughter's like in her 30s, so they would have been married back then when it wasn't really acceptable to have interracial couples. And they did a good way of telling that story without honing in too much on the racism.
Let me ask you guys this: how do you guys feel about with the portrayal of superheroes being of color more portrayed now? There's been a lot of critics on it saying that
the Flash has diverse.
They're pushing too hard on it, and sometimes they're saying that they're pushing it out too fast, where some of the shows are actually corny. Well, what's your take on that?
We have an episode talking about this.
Go ahead. Say your plug. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joey.
No, I mean, it's also, I mean, just in answering your question, I think representation is obviously important. That's why we see all these shows that are coming up recently, and you see just such a diverse cast. It's representation is important. And I think that's one of the things that we really harp on, and I know Warren can certainly piggyback on this as well, is that concept that, when you, for example, let's say Black Panther, you see Black Panther on the big screen. I mean, for the very first time, you have an example of kids going up to a big billboard or whatever, something they might see on the wall and say, look, like mommy, daddy, I want to be him. You weren't seeing that with Black kids in Captain America. You weren't seeing that with Black kids in Batman or Superman or anything like that. And so I think it's just real important. And I also think these stories being told, I mean, Luke Cage, right? Power Man, whatever, you want to call him. It's great to see, right? It's great to see because, I mean, these are stories that actually exist in comic book form, and they're being told, and they're, it's being tied into and included in other things. But Warren, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Man, I could talk about this for an hour, but I'll try not to. Just generally, I love the idea of telling stories that already exist. It's not like we have to create these stories out of nothing. There are Black superheroes. There are Black stories that already exist that we're finally putting on the screen for people to see, and we're seeing a lot of money in viewing them, right? In going to the theaters and seeing Black Panther. And so the industry is actually waking up a little bit and going, oh wait, yeah, Black people like to see movies too. Maybe we can make some movies with Black people in them. Maybe we should get some more Black stories. And it's having a ripple effect that I think is really important on what we see on the screen. It's really neat. Also paying my bills, and I really appreciate it.
Camille Najini, he's the guy from Big Sick. I think that he was in, what's that show on HBO? Can't think of it right now. He just got casted as a superhero. And my only big thing about that was like, he does have an accent. So make sure that the superhero can match with his accent, because sometimes they force actors to have this background that that's not their background. And it's like, oh, I can still hear their accent a lot. He's not American. Just make that part of his backstory. And it's sounding like they're making him a Bollywood actor or something. So.
Wait, what superhero is that you're talking about?
He's playing Kinjo Sunan, who is a samurai. So technically he shouldn't be from Bollywood, but that's the backstory they're giving his character for the new movie, The Internals.
Can we spend a second talking about Bollywood? It is the worst. It is the worst version of movies ever invented.
What, Bollywood movies?
But yet it's so entertaining.
It's so entertaining. Everything's all about ringing and dancing.
Yeah.
Just different standards.
Yeah.
What they want to see.
I love Bollywood movies.
They're awesome.
Okay.
I like some Bollywood movies. Some of them are.
You have to have fun with all that.
It's an acquired taste, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I look
What do you
forward
grow
to.
up with?
Yeah.
You generally listen to music that's like the people that you live around. You watch the same movies as the people you live around.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, the Watchmen movie was weird as fuck. I only got into the HBO Watchmen series because Regina King was a black female superhero.
I need to watch that.
My IQ to 20 points. I'll tune in Bollywood.
Yeah. So what that comment that I made earlier, just kind of wrapping up because we're coming to the end of our show about the black superheroes. One of the ones that got a lot of backlash for it. I'm sure you guys already know. It's not
Halle Berry.
Not Blank Man. Blank Man was great. It wasn't Blank Man.
Blank Man.
But it was Hancock.
Will Smith. Yeah.
That got a lot
really?
of.
That wasn't
that was a
bad.
pretty decent movie. It was a decent movie.
It wasn't
I didn't.
amazing. It wasn't that bad. My biggest issue with the black character is when they casted Halle Berry for the Storm character and they had her hair bone straight. Again, loved Storm growing up because she had wild, crazy, curly hair. And how does someone who control weather have bone straight hair? Sorry, hated it.
On Marvel, Storm had 3 different hairstyles.
Yeah, she had a mohawk for a minute.
She had a mohawk, which is the 80s one.
Mohawk is still more realistic than bone straight hair.
I love everything Marvel. Wasn't Storm always an African American female with?
Yes.
No, she was
African.
She was an African princess.
Yeah.
Wakanda.
At one point, she is Brazilian. So some storylines, she's Brazilian, but for the most part, she is African.
But as far as an acting quality,
African American. I meant like, okay, so I'm uneducated because I'm like a fucking dumb white guy, right?
That's how
Storm always like a black woman with crazy hair. All right, that's my question. Wasn't she always a black woman with crazy hair? That's a Storm I've known my whole life, and I'm over 40 years old. So
that's the most popular version of Storm. So them casting, not the fact that they cast Halle Berry, but the fact that they put a wig on her that was bone straight.
Hold on. All right, so to set that clear, without throwing out the right
thing, Berry, she got hairdressers and whatever.
All right, so hang on real quick. So there's 3 to 4 different depictions of Storm, right? The one that was the most popular was from the cartoon, which is what we see how her hair is in the movie. What is funny about
Fox version
of X-Men, yeah. No, it was wavy. It was the same thing. But here's the thing. If you watch X-Men #1, she had a slight African accent. Number 2 and 3 is gone.
Yeah.
She lost it in the casting couch.
I'm racist, but I never really noticed the accent thing. I just noticed that Halle Berry was hot as fuck as always.
One thing that I want to bring up before we end, because we said this earlier that Shao said, was about casting a popular person.
Halle Berry being hot, yeah.
Halle Berry is hot, but you said something about people being popular and casting them for that reason. There was this whole rumor that came out that Beyonce was being cast as Storm for the Black Panther movies, and people lost it.
Totally,
Marvel put out a statement saying Beyonce has not been casted, but I really do believe that they planted a seed to see how people would react, And that was something that turned the tide where they're like, oh, we're not casting this girl because people are not happy.
You know why? Because she has a contract with Disney ever since
she's a horrible actress.
No, she has a contract with Disney. So they have to put her in certain things. You know what I mean? Like, think about what's the name of Black is King, right? That's on Disney. She did Lion King, and I felt like she was horrible for Nala's role.
She was horrible.
She's very whiny.
I didn't even want to watch it, and I still haven't even fucking watched it because her voice irritates me, and everything that she acts in, I just want to.
No, Simba.
No,
Simba.
Well, hey, they had the whole idea of Idris Elba playing James Bond. I mean, you all remember that, and there was outrage with that too.
There was so much outrage.
I think that would be
he will make a great Bond, honestly.
I hate that idea.
How do you really feel, Warren?
Let's write James Bond is a white guy. The situations that he's in all of the books, he's a white guy. He's a white guy. He's a white guy. He's a white guy. And let's write a black one.
No, I agree.
Okay, I agree with that.
They've cycled through like.
Is a very sexy man. I could watch him as James Bond.
Hang on.
I could watch him as Jerome Bond. Let's write Jerome Bond. Just not James Bond. Let's not make him 007. Let's make him.
We can make him 006.
Else. Like a Miles Morales
in a Bond movie.
Miles Morales.
Miles Morales is perfect, like a perfect parallel.
You know they're
a white guy.
You know they're making a live version of that.
I can't wait.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Yeah.
And Childish Gambino's been fighting for that role from day one.
Hey, Donald Glover, man.
I like him. I think he's a great actor.
You know, I think he'd be a better.
Too.
You know who I think would be better? Damn, what is his name? He actually does the voice of Miles Morales, and he played the Shaolin Fantastic in the Netflix movie called what's the name of it? No,
and the Get Down.
The Get Down.
Yeah.
The Get Down.
Wow, Warren got excited.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up the Get Down to see.
You've never seen the Get Down?
I have. It's on my watch list. You guys, I watch a lot of TV. So much TV. My watch
what name
list
are you gonna say?
I watch.
Because I'm getting hot right now.
No, I'm looking up to see who he was talking about from the Get Down. Are you talking about Shamik Moore?
Yes.
Guys, all I know is that I'm only half Dominican, and I probably have more cans of Gondola Goya beans than all of y'all combined.
You do, because I'm cheap. I go to
You know what? That makes me more Dominican and more black than anybody on this show. And
I go to Trader Joe's.
I'm boycotting Goya right now, so it's all good. Whatever Goya I got is whatever I got. I'm not buying any more of that.
All right. So we are at the end of our show. Each one of you gets a 30-second plug. You get to say whatever you want. You got 30 seconds. Obviously, we want to try to keep it as positive possible. Black Light Podcast. If you guys want to go ahead and give your shout out, the mic is yours. Whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'll go. Yeah, no, I appreciate once again just being able to have this conversation. I think it is important, and especially talking about colorism and the climate that we are operating in today. So I am Jay, or Julian, as other people call me, as my mom calls me. I'm 1/4 of the Black Light Podcast. It's a podcast that each week we talk about social issue or current events, but primarily from a Black lens. And it's been a year in the making, and the reason we wanted to do it is because we found that the experiences and perspectives of Black people have really been unseen or overlooked. So you can check us out at on Instagram and Twitter at Black Light Pod. That's Black LITE Pod. And definitely check it out. I mean, some of the topics we discuss include the idea of being Black. What does it mean to be Black, right? The aftermath of the execution of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, the concept of dating while Black. I mean, I know, Monique, I know you have a podcast, and I actually checked it out earlier. It's actually pretty cool. But dating while Black, and the idea of our experiences of dating women where their parents had an issue with us being Black. We talk about mental health. I know Fresh Delivery Podcast discusses mental health as well, but the stigma of therapy in the Black community, what does that look like? And the newest episode that just dropped today, I know I'm coming up on 30 seconds, but newest episode, we talk about code switching. which basically, changing the way that you speak and interact in social situations. So these are conversations that we love to have, and we love to include people. So once again, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Black Light Pod. That's Black LITE Pod.
He took your thunder, boy.
I mean, he basically said out everything that I was going to say. I just want to say thanks for letting us hang out with you for a little while and be on the show. It's been a great conversation.
No doubt, no doubt. And then we got Melania, aka Monique. We're gonna go with your government name. It's like
Melania Monique is technically my whole government. But yeah, so long story. I talk about it on the podcast, so go listen to the podcast episode 1. But 52 Day Podcast is me and my girl G, and we talk about dating. Really, it's a way to empower women and make women okay. 35 and single is not a death sentence. Be happy with who you are. Enjoy your singleness. Get out there and date by all means, but there's this whole stigma that we're spinsters at this point, or we're never going to get married, or never going to have children. And none of these things are bad. So we're just trying to change the conversation around that. With COVID, we haven't been dating as much. So we're doing a lot more lifestyle conversations. But yeah, definitely check it out. We're having fun doing it. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at 52 Dates Podcast.
Wait. Quick question. Maybe this might be a whole nother podcast. Is there a big difference between dating and hanging out? Because when you say dating, I'm thinking about I'm going to the buffet and taking a little taste of everything in that old country buffet food style. You know what I mean? Or is it like exclusive dating?
We talk about all that and what constitutes, and we actually put rules in place because of COVID and shelter in place for how we could date in this age. But there's a big deal about guys paying for dates right now. And so our big suggestion is like, take someone on a picnic, like go for a walk. There's so much things to do in the DMV area that you don't have to pay, and it's still a date. So I think there's blurred lines between dating and hanging out, but it's essentially the same thing. And it's about what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to be someone's hangout buddy?
Have some value. Thank you, Monique. So with that being said, we have Jamie. Go ahead. The mic is yours, Jamie. Oh, I thought I muted you. My bad.
It's all good. This is really good. I really, really enjoyed the discussion. I can be reached on Instagram at _Jamie_. I definitely want to listen to your guys' podcast, everyone else, and possibly be a part of them and have other discussions and get different points of view.
Zoe Saldana is the goat of her era, okay? She's the goat of her era. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. Thank you, Jamie. Grand Booba, it's just you and I back on the show, just you and I. You want to go ahead and get a plug because we haven't done one in a while?
True. So be on the lookout for my Grand Report mukbang extravaganza. Still working on it. Also, it was a pleasure. Mukbang, basically eating while we're talking. Yeah, so a mukbang is basically people recording themselves eating while talking about whatever it is that they have on their mind. So mine is more sports driven. I know, right? So lavish. But in all seriousness, it was a pleasure meeting everyone else on the show. I'm definitely gonna check out y'all podcast. And it was a great conversation that we had. I enjoyed hearing and listening to everyone's different viewpoints. So this is what America is supposed to be about. At the end of the day, we gotta respect each other's opinion and also learn to agree to disagree and still be amicably cool.
So with that being said, you can catch other episodes of the Fresh Delivery Show. You can find us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can also find us on our new YouTube channel on this live recording. Also, we're going to have other stuff. We get to explore the Markov's Haunted Forest, and we're going to give you an insight of what goes on to run a haunted forest. And we have a new cast. Give a shout out to our new cast, Jazzy and Joe Matt is a photographer out there. Check out the Instagram page. You can check out their artwork on there. It's the Fresh Delivery at the Fresh Delivery Show. You can also check us out on Twitter at Fresh, but it's spelled differently because I kind of messed up there. So it's FR3SH Delivery because before, I don't know, it got stuck with my other username. So user error. But other than that, we are the Fresh Delivery Show. Thank you for checking us out. Peace, y'all. Be safe.
Peace.
Yo, yo, yo. Hello, beautiful, sexy people. Thank you for listening and tuning in the Fresh Delivery Show. You can view and listen to our episodes on our YouTube channel or listen from your favorite media source, Anchor, Apple, and Google Podcasts, iTunes, and the Google Play Music Store, and Spotify. We appreciate you all. Stay safe, one love, and peace.